Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. If you are on the West Coast, like me, good morning. If you are somewhere else in the world, good afternoon or good evening, or maybe good middle of the night. Thank you for staying up late with us. My name is Sarah Lacey, and I'm a marketing strategist here at Decil Group. And for the purposes of this webinar, I am probably as close as you're going to get to an AI skeptic. And we are here to talk about the AI tools that we've been building for fund managers. And really, what we're trying to get to the bottom of here is some research that we did in the marketing group that showed that the more managers use the AI tools that some of the tech team who's here today with us have built for fund managers, there's a huge correlation with the more you use those tools, the faster you're closing your funds. And it's actually the tightest correlation with success that we've ever seen with any other factor. And look, we thought these tools were great. We wouldn't have built them if we didn't, but it sort of even stunned us as a company. So we've been trying to get to the bottom of exactly why that is, why these tools and just using these tools are making it so much easier for fund managers to get to success. So we wanted to put this together to, first of all, talk to one of the VCs who started using them, which is Jonathan. We're going to get to Jonathan in a minute, but also get some of our tech team here with Woody and Travis, two of our tech superstars, to demo some of the tools and the ways people are using them and some of the things that they built into these tools, hoping that it would really be massive, massive shortcuts. Because look, what we're trying to do here, the whole reason we all get out of bed in the morning is to change the face of who gets to be a venture capitalist, to shortcut everything about being a venture capitalist. And we can shortcut fund formation, we can shortcut, all the paths and tell you, what not to do, how not to waste time raising a fund, where not to look for money, how to get to your thesis faster. But, really, there's all these other ways that it's like if you still have got to write the deal memos the old fashioned way, if you still need an associate, if you still need all these other things, really we're only shortcutting the fund formation. What these tools are helping is helping shortcut in your day-to-day investing. And that's where we're hopefully taking the efficiencies of being a one-man, two-man, small, scrappy venture fund to the next level. That's what we're going to be getting into today. And it's going to be pretty exciting. And I don't know, maybe even for AI skeptic like me, I might come around to machines are better than humans. Ha ha. Okay, sorry, I'm a writer, so I'm just born to hate AI. Okay, Jonathan, let's start with you before we get to the tech guys. Tell us a little bit about how long you've been using the tools, what you use them for, what your experience has been like.
Thanks, Lacey. Hi, Sarah. Sarah Lacey.
That's
Um,
okay. Sarah's such a common name. I'm often just called Lacey. So they called me in the army too.
oh, well, I appreciate that. Get me off the hook. Um, I need AI to remind me who I'm talking to now. So I just started it was more of a speed drill. There's so much to do. I just thought, can we speed some of this stuff up? And as Travis and Woody as these tools were getting released and Deo and Mike kept talking about them, I thought, I'll give it a shot. But I'm a skeptic. Even though I come from a tech background, I'm still a skeptic as well because I'm a very detail-oriented person. I don't like shortcuts. I like getting it done right. And so some of the tools I'd used before, I felt like almost double the work because I had to keep checking it and going back, and it's not quite the tone I wanted. But what I was pleasantly surprised at was as when I first started and was working through the thesis, I used a lot of feedback from other fund managers, Mike Adeo, basically a lot of the group that's part of VC Lab. And it was, very personal going back and forth. And I realized pretty quickly as I started getting feedback and as all of that learning got put into the algorithm, I could start using the algorithm in very much the same way because it was using the same knowledge base. It wasn't using a generic, ChatGPT knowledge base that came off the internet. It was within this group. And that's when it started to turn for me. It was very specific to what I was actually building. and the answers were very specific. So I didn't use as much on the thesis because the thesis was finished by the time a lot of this came back. But as I started playing around with it, realized everything from emails to just the little advice stuff that I would have to reach out to Mike and Adeo's people directly. Realized I could get a first answer very quickly that was relevant and was not, it was not a dumbed down version. It was actually an equivalent version to the knowledge base that I was going after anyway. That was the eye opener for me.
So walk us through like a typical day. How does it show up in your day? Is it something you use on a daily basis?
Yeah, pretty much every day. A lot of it's really practical things that you would use. You learn to use AI for anyway, which is doing first drafts, which typically take a long time. I know Sarah, you're probably against that because you got to think through what's actually being built. But we're not. I'm not. A lot of this is just very quick emails and responses. Information that gets repeated over and over again. I was used to doing this in a CRM and having basically templates, but every template you want to be personalized to who you're talking to because it is a relationship game. And so AI really helped take that tone and add nuances to it that I hadn't even thought of because I'm not a great writer. But I like to communicate. So that's very helpful just on a regular, very quick cycle basis. The other tools, like just yesterday, did a very first draft on a deal memo, and it's just I know the three or four things that I've got conviction about for a deal, and there's usually 50 other things we've got to run through. And the fact that it can suck in a bunch of that information quickly, do some first drafts on some of the questions, and then I can double check it, just speeds up the whole process. I would never depend on it to just do a deal memo because that's not what this job is. And it's never that perfect because you've got to have human in the loop. But the speed to go through that very quickly to get the group out to different partners and an LPAC committee or whoever that it just really helps get there fast. Start working on it.
How much time would you say it saves on a task like a deal memo?
Um, I would say, you know, I mean, getting it, it mostly helps at the getting started phase of that, right? So ingesting a whole bunch of information, getting the very first draft of questions, laid out, what are the main bullets, that usually takes the longest. And so that I think that's what got compressed really quickly. And then I don't think that it's changing the iteration on that as we ask more questions of founders, as we walk through internally what are we looking for, what really fits. I don't think it changes that process. But the fact that you can get a huge head start instead of taking a couple days, putting the first draft together is big. So I'd say it saves a lot of time there.
Mhm. Great. All right, Woody and Travis, would love to bring you guys into the conversation. Before we start seeing some demos and talking about the granularity of the project, when you guys really sit down and think about how can we make AI work for fund managers, I mean, venture capital itself as an industry is not an area of software where we've seen a lot of innovation. It is not an area where we've really thought about how do we use software to make this more efficient. So it's almost like a total greenfield. So, I mean, how do you even think about where AI can be brought to bear here? How do you even start to think about how can what are the places where you saw immediately where
That's
AI
a good
could make
question.
a fund manager's life easier?
Woody actually put together the first version of our base AI. And it's so apparent right away that we had knowledge from 10,000 questions and answers in our database that ChatGPT didn't have access to. And like Jonathan was saying a few minutes ago, we can personalize somebody's response based upon the knowledge that we have that's not public. And that makes all the difference because at the heart, VC is a person-to-person business. It's you need to create relationships with the LPs that are putting money into your fund, and you need to create relationships with the entrepreneurs that are starting the startups. And if we can help you with knowledge, approaches, and interactions, and be better at your job, then that's where it started for me. Like VC is not an easy thing to get into. It's not an easy thing to understand. It's really hard to raise a fund. And if we can make any of those things easier through like personalized help and and helping you to be the best version of yourself, then that's where it starts for me.
I'd say well put, exactly what Travis said. This is, yeah, really a relationship business. From kind of some of our features perspectives, that's something where, we've never had tools like generative AI and building advanced knowledge graphs that we've kind of had in the past that can really help understand at a very primitive level, sort of what are your relationships to these people and how we can incorporate those into our tools. So it's kind of a new wave of computers getting smarter. But yeah, as Jonathan points out, and we'll also discuss that later when demoing some of the tools, nothing's ever going to, I think, fully replace the kind of human element in some of these conversations.
So is the excuse me. So is the point that the AI is kind of taking the place of what maybe an admin might do at a larger fund, what an associate might do? Is it just making you more efficient? Is it compressing the time where you might be doing things like filling in a two thing, going and looking something up at LinkedIn, something that's like not super high value brain work so that you can be focusing your time on the high value brain work so that you can be more efficient? How do you think about where it's giving you the cheat code, Jonathan?
First, I thought it would be like hiring an intern, and I would, you explain everything that needs to happen, and then it comes back and you iterate through that. And I think general, like ChatGPT, not to knock on that too much, but that's actually how you treat that type of a tool. What I learned is the specific knowledge behind this actually raises the level of how you're using it. I mean, an associate, to help with deal memos, a lot of times an associate would actually do the initial deal memo and do the initial research. You sort of have that. I mean, a small fund, I can't even hire, an executive assistant. Like there's no budget on a little tiny fund. So I get to, work with an associate level for things like that. But also there's another level up where it is really just a time savings, because some of the more difficult or specific questions around running a fund or some kind of compliance question or something that I just need to get a quick idea, not even a final answer on, something I would say, hey, Mike or Hideo, what do you think about this? If they were sitting next to me, I can get that first cut very quickly without anybody having to arrange a schedule. And that's like partner level stuff, right? So I think I've thought about it on different levels, depending on what you actually need to do. I mean, the research side, it speeds that up, but that, you could have an intern or maybe an associate run through that. So these are just, it's just a way to speed things up, actually have a bigger team, and a more relevant team than, a small fund could ever think about having. Certainly couldn't afford it. So.
And outside of all of the tools that you've gotten from Dessel Group, are there other AI tools in the market that you have used to make your job easier?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've got a couple of venture partners that are in the space too, and we've worked through and done some agentic type tools. A lot of it's ingesting data information. One of the most difficult parts of this is what AI happens to be really good at, but it's also really difficult to actually pull off, is to have really complex data simplified down into a very specific space to actually work with it. And so getting emails in with a bunch of attachments and all kinds of different attachments, and then or having a small email with a paragraph in it, trying to figure out the relevance of that. We've played a lot with different agentic tools to do that. And I think and Decel's done that too for bringing in deal flow and different things. So we've done that. Then on the research side, obviously it's useful broadly, like what's happening in market trends, what's happening, what segments are actually moving, and even just broadly known, even in VC, just broadly known truths, if you will. there is such a thing a VC. It just, so finding that what's been written, who's writing stuff, who's influencing, what way are things moving, that is really useful with a bunch of different tools. Perplexity is great at that. I've used a bunch of tools around that in general. But I do think the whole thing, like that whole space, is moving to be very specific, like specific knowledge, and and that's where I think the value starts to go up if you're trying to solve something specific. So.
Okay, great. All right. Well, why don't you guys show us some of the tools, and Woody, why don't you take over? I think pick something that you think is really. I think we talked about deal memos some. So why don't you demo something?
Sure. I can start off talking about some deal memos and showing us some of the tools we've built. But before we jump into that, there's one thing I want to talk about. We talked about, Sarah, you specifically asked, is this, admin level work, someone kind of filling in data entry for you, or is it someone doing first pass? And Jonathan provided some really great examples of giving some advanced information from our knowledge base, which is largely just built on conversations with Mike and Adeo and other trusted experts from our team. We do have that, but we also do a lot of the data save and entry stuff. I just want to do a quick demo of that before we show deals. Just because I want everyone to know we have tools that also just save you the data entry of, this is our Chrome extension on the right. And you can just go onto LinkedIn, any person that you know. This is one of my colleagues from college. We'll say import Lexi as a person into my Decile Hub. And it will save you all forms of typing in any form of info, gets a ton of things. Where do we want to add her to Hub? What stage? Notes, where does she work? Anything like that. If her email address is listed on LinkedIn, it'll show that here. And I can see that she's been added to my Decile Hub. So we are providing advanced guidance and advising on some more advanced topics, but we've also got the basic stuff covered. I just want to share that too. But enough about that. I can jump into what we were just discussing, which was deal memos. This is kind of similar. We'll be combining both of those ideas of both, what is stuff that a lower level analyst or some admin might have had to do in the past of data entry and just coagulating data, reading pitch decks. And what we built is we use the term deal memo, but it kind of means the entire deal flow analysis lifecycle in Hub. We built an AI tool to help with that, and it essentially reads all of the information you have about a company. And I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. So for example, if I click on a company we haven't enriched with AI, say Grower, you get a little screen. It's going to say, hey, give me your pitch decks. Give me a website to go scrape. Give me any notes. Maybe you had a conversation with the founder, and you can just paste this from your AI note taker in there. Once that is done, all of the relevant information from that gets scraped out into the organization, and we have a bunch of, it gives you tags. It tells you what their traction metrics are. It gives you more information, though, if we jump over to the deal memo that I have up for them. Our deal memos are right now in kind of question and answer format, and we're looking to improve this even further in the short term. But we've got a kind of AI diligence section of questions that, based on all of that information and all notes and emails you've had with the founder of that company, if Decile Hub has access to those, which it can via our Gmail integration, it will fill out answers to the diligence questions. And this is maybe triggering the cynic flags in you, and also what Jonathan pointed out of, removing from the human from the loop. We did this very intentionally to only do this on a subset of our diligence sort of objective-based questions. So you'll see that the AI has given answers to a lot of these, and you can still go in and edit those. However, we've got more of the conviction. This is a test account that has some messed up questions. There's usually a lot more questions down here. But usually there's going to be a lot more sections in this kind of conviction section, which the AI doesn't answer on its own, and we rely on you to write an answer to. And we think we've found like an okay balance, at least for now, for having the AI do objective, diligence-based questions while still leaving room for the manager to need to kind of find the golden nugget in the haystack, which are like the exceptional deals which will perform very well. So that's one example of kind of us using some AI tools to, I don't know, thread the needle of what you could do with a couple analysts before.
Yeah. We've been told that this saves hours people typing. And like Jonathan said, it's a great first draft. You still need to come in and put your finishing touches on it, but it's a huge advancement over what we had before.
Yeah.
So getting back to this idea of why is it that people who are using these tools are having so much more success closing funds? Jonathan, what is your guess, or Woody or Travis, if you want to jump in here, since I know you work with a lot of our customers? Is it just that they're getting shortcut in terms of they're getting all of the context in the right place, they're able to move quicker, they're able to pitch people quicker, they're not getting bogged down in details? Do you think that there are people who are just spending, more time, in the tools, and so they're spending more time pitching, and so they're having a higher success ratio? What would any of you chalk that correlation up to? What is it unlocking for people in terms of fundraising?
You want to run first, Jonathan?
I was going to say, I'd love to hear what you guys say, but I'll go first.
Got some thoughts.
I think it does. I do think speed is a basic improvement, because raising a fund is a grind. It takes a lot of time. There are a whole lot of relationships, a whole lot more than actually become, fund investors along the way. And it is not like, selling a pizza. It's finding alignment, and alignment comes out of those conversations. And so those conversations have to be very specific. And AI has helped, again, do first drafts. Even to me, it's like a level above, the template type CRM stuff, because you can start with a template, and then you can actually get deeper into the relationship with whoever you're talking to faster, instead of just rewriting everything because you happen to meet them at a happy hour that the day before. So I think it helps with that. The other thing that has been helpful for me is just overall process. I mean, knowing, what's next, again, it's just a level up on a regular CRM, because you can ask, like, what am I missing? What did I step over from a process standpoint? What should I be focused on? Knowing where I am in the fundraise, knowing, what the pipeline looks like. And it really becomes like an advisor on that side, because we've all got blind spots. Like, we're running so fast. A lot of times it's a reminder, like, well, look, don't forget, you got to plan an event for, in 2 weeks. Like, oh yeah, that's right. Like, it sounds dumb, but it's just that is a huge advantage to being able to just converse on that side. So that's me.
So let me just share my screen here. So anybody that was on our webinar yesterday saw this new dashboard that we put together, and it has compiled some of the AI tools that we were using before. And a lot of this stuff was available in other parts of Hub. We just sort of put it in one spot. But I'd like to kind of walk through a couple of these, because I think it really highlights why people are having more success using the AI tools than people that don't. So to start with, everybody that goes through VC Lab, everybody that launches a fund has a thesis. And the thesis is, the foundation. It's the bedrock of everything that you do as a VC. It guides your LP conversations. It guides the investments that you make. And so you also need to make sure that it comes from your heart. You got to make sure that it's going to represent you and that you're comfortable with it when you start having conversations with people. So we have an AI, a thesis advisor here, and it's going to go through your thesis. It's going to say, here's what it does well, here's what it doesn't do well, Would you like me to evaluate it? Would you like to refine it? And you can go through a process here that's help you think about what your secret sauce is and to get better and to really just like connect with your thesis. It's so important. And so, and then we've got things down here like learn about venture capital. You can learn about venture capital online, but it's the same with almost any AI tool. Once you have a focus and you're able to help drive the conversation, it's like having a thought partner inside of here. And so if you don't know how to answer some of these questions when you talk to an LP, the LP is not going to feel comfortable with investing in your fund. Like, why would they invest in somebody that doesn't know how to manage their money? So you're just more knowledgeable than other people and therefore more likely to close. We've got things like helping you create a deck here. A lot of people overcomplicate their decks when it comes to venture capital. A lot of people don't realize you often don't even need a deck because you're not launching a startup, you're launching a fund. But this deck builder will help you go through and say exactly what you need to put on exactly which slide, and you can work with the AI to customize this for you. But these kind of things not everybody knows about. You want to talk about like why people are more effective. Look at the data that this is giving. This is insider data that most people wouldn't have had access to before VC Lab and before Decile Hub. And then finally, this handle LP questions here. This is like having Mike sit by your side and say, tell me what's going on with this LP. How come you can't close? And so if we were to do something like just, I have a friend who wants to come in, but they don't have liquidity for another 3 months. Just, silly, whatever. It's a confidant, unsure of capital calls, economic uncertainty. And so if you just give the exact circumstances that you are existing within, our AIs can help you take a very intelligent next step. And so how would you know about these things otherwise? How would you know the right way to answer a question like this? The answer is that you wouldn't. You wouldn't unless you've done it before. And very few people that are launching their first fund have done it before. So that's the true value of what the AI brings, in my opinion.
I was at one of our events and I was talking to one of the fund managers from one of the recent cohorts. And this is someone who was from another country, who was mixed race, who was a single mother, who grew up in poverty. And she said to me, look at every single thing about me. Every single thing about me would tell you that I shouldn't be a VC. There's nothing about me that looks like I fit the prototype of a VC. And she said, the thing that I love about what VC Lab is doing is everyone wants to tell you that the differentiator is the money, but it's not, it's the access. And it's exactly every single thing that you just showed, Travis. Those are the things that until now have been like the secrets.
That's right. Yep. It was only available to you. You were in Silicon Valley in a fund that already existed, and you learned from people that were already doing it. Anybody outside of that very, very tiny group didn't have access to this kind of information, and we're making it available to the entire world. And that's why I'm here.
Yeah, and for free. Pretty much. All right. So there's some questions in the Q&A, and I think some of these have to do with the demo you just did, Woody. So first of all, can you integrate it with Dealroom, Crunchbase, and can it produce an exportable memo?
There's some great questions. I'll talk about the Dealroom Crunchbase. Our Chrome extension specifically can scrape data basically from anything that's on your screen. So yes, the answer is if you're on Crunchbase and that information is being shown to you, you can import that directly into Decile Hub. You could also, if like say you're viewing an email that's just someone cold emailed you, you could use the Chrome extension for that. You shouldn't, because you can also just forward emails to a pipeline in Decile Hub, and we'll have the AI like take all the attachments out, read the email for you too. But any page basically on the internet that you're looking at, it can put put a prospect into a pipeline. But on that too, when we're on the topic of connecting with other tools, so Dealroom and Crunchbase, those are information tools. If you have any other tools that you use that are specific to you, and let's say you've got your own Notion web form or some other thing like that, Decile Hub also has a Zapier integration. So you can basically any tool on the internet that connects with Zapier, which is the biggest kind of app-to-app connector. There's like over 8,000 connections on that. You can use that to create prospects and get your data into Hub, whether that's like syncing your Google Drive folder with your folders on Hub, or like, oh, I'm running an event on Luma. And let's say if you prefer running on Luma, Hub also has an events feature that works fairly well, but it's fairly standard. If you want to use a different one, you can just connect them through Zapier, and it's super easy to get your data into and out of Hub also. Oh, and then the second question was exportable deal memo. Yep, our deal memos are fully exportable to PDFs. They are, I think, professionally styled. They're satisfactory, and a lot of people use those to share with potential investors and their LPACs and anyone else who might want to especially see how you do diligence on your deals and how seriously you take your investment process. We know that that is critical to be able to export those. So yeah, we've had that for a while.
Great. And someone else was asking, if I have more than one fund can I do more than one fund on the platform if they have different funds with different strategies? How does that work?
Emphatically, yes. You can, in a Decile Hub account, you can have as many funds as you want, and you can have them under different general partnerships as well. The way we have it built is we have a 3-tier structure of management company, and then there could be multiple general partnerships, and there are funds under general partnerships. So even if you have a different partner, go ahead.
I would add though that that's a feature that's available to our Decile partners. And
yes.
Eldo here also asked, could you share the invitation for the Decile platform? Eldo, I would recommend that you go to decilegroup.com and click on the Start Fund product and fill out the form there. Then you can talk to somebody about getting access.
Yes, that is a great place to start, I would say.
And yeah, we have lots of programs, whether it's like Venture Institute, if you want to start your career in venture capital, or VC Lab, if you want to like really understand everything and go through a full program, or Start Fund, which is our newest program if you're just ready to get going, and it's the fastest way to get an institutional grade venture capital fund up and running and use a lot of the tools that Travis was just showing without going through the full program. And that has been our most in-demand program. So if
and it's free to get started.
Yeah,
it doesn't cost you anything. You just need to be the kind of person that launch a fund and raise a minimum of $150,000. Fill out that Start Fund form on decilegroup.com, and it's pretty easy to get started.
And it's a great place to start, because if that's not even the right place, then someone will tell you, what the right program is. All right. So I know the place that we are going next with AI is getting into the agentic AI space. So Travis, do you want to tell us what we are working on? What is coming next?
Sure.
Dare we try to do a demo of the bleeding edge of where things are going?
Yeah, we'll try to do a demo. Let's see how it goes. This is, as Sarah says, brand new bleeding edge tech for us. Even I would say that in the wider world, agentic use cases of AI aren't common yet. They're pretty common in the coding environments that Woody and I use every day, but in the rest of the world, not so much. So I'm going to show you some stuff that I think is really cool. Let me just share my screen one more time. Okay, so I am in a Decile Hub account here. I just showed you this page right here, which is for Start Funds. By the way, if you start a Start Fund, this is most likely the experience that you're going to start with. We show you a little intro video from Adeo here. Adeo is always quite entertaining and fun, but he's also always on point. So, and then we help you create your thesis, and then we give you these tools to get commitments. Pretty soon, Jonathan and other people that use this platform will have access to some of our agentic use cases. So I'm gonna run through a couple of different use cases. So first off, why don't I just do this, and I'm going to show, we've got George Washington in here. So George is going to be an LP, and we don't know too much about it yet. So there are no notes available for him in here. This particular test is going to just, so by the way, things that I'm about to show you are very simple. These are just like a picture of the tools that could be available in the future once they get integrated and massaged. So I'm going to put George Washington here. So what I'm doing right now is I have a AI that says, take somebody's name, find that person in the system, set them as the subject of this chat, and then go do a search on Perplexity for the birthday of this person. When you find the birthday of that person, add a note for that person on the system with their birthday. Now, you could imagine this being something like on a mobile phone, you're walking away from Pete's after having coffee with a potential LP, and you say, I met with George today at Pete's on OMA, and we chatted about the fund. I think that he might be in for 25K. And you hit send, it'll look for the person. If they don't exist, it'll add them, it'll add a note for them, and it'll add a reminder for you to follow up with this person in the future. So this one successfully completed it. So we did several tool calls here back to back. So we called an entity search. So we found him in our system. We found multiple people here actually, but we gave the one with the highest probability, called the tool, did a search, got the search results, added a note, and updated it successfully. And so if I come back here to George now, it should see we've got a note in the system here that includes his birthday. So that's pretty cool stuff, if you ask me. Let me see here. I've got one more. It's very similar. It's very similar in scope. But let me see here if I can just run through this one really quick. This is also going to add a note for the person, but in this case, it's a little bit more generic. And you know what? I'll just use the use case that I had before. So, get rid of my meeting controls. All right. Met with George Washington today at Coffee on Alma. We chatted about the fund, and I think he might come in for 25K. So this is going to say, all right, let me look for the name inside of this thing. Let me search for that person in the system. Let me set them as a subject for this chat, and then let me add a note for them. And that was all done very quickly there. So if we come back to George here now, we should see that there's another note in the system about what we did. So at heart, what we're trying to do here, this agentic stuff, is we're removing the user interface, but we're keeping all the power for what you need to do inside of Hub. And for example, we can already do this in a couple of ways. And so if I were to do a search here for what is a pact, I can ask an AI question. And like Jonathan was saying earlier, this goes to our private set of Q&A, and we're going to come back and we're going to give you the data that you would not get ChatGPT. Sometimes it might be similar, but sometimes it's going to be very, very specific to what you need to know, or what we teach here, because we've helped launch 1,000 funds over the last 3 years, and we know what works and what doesn't. So a general search like that is going to come back with a very detailed answer. But you could also just say something like, who are the last people added to my account? So it knows, it's smart enough to know when I should be answering with a reply or when I should be interacting within the system. And so here's going to pull back the last 5 people that were added to this demo, and you can interact with them. I could even say something like, what what notes do I have for Tristan? And I think that should do a search for Tristan, find the notes, and then put them back in here if there are any. I don't know if there are any for that person. Yeah, so this is where we're going. And for me, it's a beautiful, really exciting future.
Yeah, and when you're talking about being a solo GP and you're raising money and you're basically just having to go out and pitch and pitch and pitch and you're getting, maybe 80% no's. Being able to have this much access to data so that you can just have all this at your fingertips and keep going and going and going. I mean, it makes sense why people are closing faster.
Does that mean you're coming around, Sarah? Is your skepticism
I mean, you look,
softening?
you don't have AI agents writing the next great American novel. So as long as you're not coming for my job.
I've got a comment on that because I think it was eye-opening for me. I think the only way to move faster is to build on your strengths and cover your blind spots and weaknesses. You can't just improve your weaknesses and expect it to go faster. It doesn't work. And I think that's the power of this. Like, it covers the weaknesses and the blind spots, and you keep doing what you do best. It shouldn't be threatening from that standpoint. If you're really good at it, just cover all the stuff you can't do. That
No, I think that's true. And I think that, it's like, I'm not a great like graphic designer. And so if I'm working on something and I'm like, oh, I need a really quick logo, it's like, I will like use AI to do something like that. Now, I'm not going to go around like doing that as my day job, nor am I going to say this is the best thing, but it's going to be like good enough. And so I fully understand if someone who's like not a writer for a living is like, look, I need to do this and I need this to be good enough. It's like, I think a lot of what AI does is it's like, if that's not your thing, it's going to do it like good enough. But I think where people go wrong a lot is like not having a human in the middle at all. And I think it's like where VCs can be exposed is if, they're not bringing their judgment to bear. And it sounds like that there's a lot of thoughtfulness, like you were showing in terms of the deal stuff, Woody, and like having that moment of like, nope, this is the stuff you've got to put in your own. And it's like, so it's like, I do think it's an art and science of like what can be shortcut and what can't be shortcut. Because the other thing is, if it's drawing from all of the knowledge in our space, you want to make sure that you're not just falling into groupthink, which is a real risk with AI too. If everyone's thinking about the same knowledge, it's like being a VC is not just being right, but it's being non-consensus and right.
Super well put, Sarah. And I'll add one more thing we're looking to ship in addition to that deal memo feature that we discussed, are the idea of adding counterfactuals to any AI answers, because we found that, yeah, like AI, while we don't have a problem with hallucination based on the granularity of data we get and the instructions we give, our AI is pretty good on just not answering a question if it doesn't have the information available. But the idea of adding counterfactuals to make you really pause and consider and say, this sounds good, but are there some flaws I'm looking over? We think is going to be really helpful there too.
Mm-hmm. All right, we've got two final questions in the Q&A. Why don't we close out by answering those? Woody or Travis, who wants to
I'll take
hop
that
in
first
on
one.
those?
So Mario asks, are there plans to extend the AI context awareness into our own fund data? And the answer is that yes, actually, we do that today. And we even have a tool that's called the AI Advisor. And this might have been a little bit about what Jonathan was alluding to earlier, in that we take your exact fund data, your LPs, your fundraising momentum, the number of PACs that you have and commitments, your thesis, and we inject it into the context of the chat. And so I'll just launch the AI Advisor here, and let's see what this looks like. So this has been trained to be a lot like Mike and Adeo. They're going to say, given what I know about the fund, I'm going to give you some advice on what I think you should do next. I've never launched this one into the demo account before, so I'm not exactly sure what we're going to get, but let's see. Looks like the AI is thinking. All right, so you're closing concerning momentum issues. Shows that you have a deadline. It's going to give you some advice. Yeah. So this hub, this demo account has been around for a while. It's going to say, yeah, 3 years of fundraising is too long. So anyway, that is the answer to the question. We already do inject the fund directly into chats, and we can do all kinds of cool stuff with that. And Ghazal, the answer to your question, is this available only for VC Lab members or public? It is available to anybody that is on the Decile Hub platform. If you want to launch a fund, the fastest way to do it is to look into Start Fund. Go to decilegroup.com. I'll put this into the chat as well. Search for Start Fund and fill out the Start Fund form on that page. You can talk to somebody here. And if you're a good candidate to launch your own fund, then you'll gain access to all of this stuff right away. It's all free. You get it. You just need to be the kind of person that is ready and able to raise $150,000 to get your fund launched.
All right, so we've got about 8 more minutes here. Paint an image 5 years from now. Where are we with AI? What else have you guys built? What would you like for these tools to be able to do in the future? Maybe Jonathan, let's start with you. What would you like for these tools to be able to do 5 years from now?
I mean, I think there's a certain aspect of, predictive analysis that I'd love to see, like taking massive amounts of results, data, outcomes, small companies, investment thesis and verticals, and being able to, chop and choose what's relevant to what you're trying to build and see what's real, what's not, what's, talk at a happy hour and what's actually hardcore data. And can you start to use that? Because there is a lot of data out there, but there's massive amounts of interpretation of what's actually going on, and there's a lot of hidden data too. That I think a lot of it could be anonymized and used, more democratized across people making decisions on where to allocate capital. So I see a lot of room to run on that side. And then for running a fund, I think a lot of it, comes down to, I think there's going to be better and better ways to amplify the relationship side of this, like how to get through the data side faster, to figure out how to actually be as an allocator, as a fund allocator into founders, how to optimize what the outcomes are for that founder from a relationship standpoint, and network connections and customer connections. I think there's ways to actually augment that we haven't touched yet. So I'm excited about that at some point.
All right, Woody and Travis, what would be your dream thing to build, create, put in customers' hands?
Something that I hope we can even get before 5 years is somewhere of a conversational, more upgraded flow. Actually, Travis, I think, has just been adding this week microphone integration in Decile Hub, but something I think we're going to see across all technologies in our lives, not just VC related tools, is going to be a more conversational interface where it's, instead of typing to what to do, you just even speak, because speech to text is improving so much. It becomes more of a conversation with something like that AI advisor tool that Travis just showed, where it's still relying on you to make critical, important decisions to kind of display and exercise your alpha and distinguish yourself from others. But I think the data collection is going to also like go off the roof. I think in a couple of years, have a phone call with someone. I bet your iPhone's going to automatically transcribe it, hopefully add it to a note, share that with Decile Hub, and the integration, I think, is just going to be so much closer with our regular lives. I first see that in a couple different areas, not just VC lab tools, but yeah.
More and more surveillance, not creepy at all. Travis, what about you?
I'm going to go in a little different direction than these guys. Looking forward to the day when we can bring more liquidity into the venture capital market. And I love the idea of an AI being able to interface with the entrepreneurs that are starting companies to be able to give them the ability to give data easier, faster, and more transparently to the VCs that invest in them, who can in turn give it to the fund manager like Decile Group. And since we will be a publicly traded company by that point in 5 years, that gives us the ability to put venture funds into a more liquid state so that we can have secondary markets for them. And that's what it's going to take to really unlock private markets for the world. And yeah, so that's what I'm looking forward to. Unmute.
Not a Zoom call until someone talks on mute. We made it. We started with AI tools and we ended with us going public. So we accomplished a lot in an hour, and none of the demos failed. I just talked on mute. So as tech calls go, we only moderately failed. This was absolutely incredible. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us to tell us a little bit more about your experience. And Woody and Travis, thank you so much for joining to show everyone a little bit about what you've built. And thank you also I'm on behalf of fund managers, not that I am one, but I've been an entrepreneur raising money, and I know how hard it is to wake up every day and get a world of no. And I can certainly understand how it must feel to at least have software having your back in those moments. So I'm sure that they appreciate the empathy that you put into building all of these tools. I hope everyone here enjoyed learning a little bit more about this and about Start Fund and about programs. Go check them out. If you, as Travis said, if you have the wherewithal and you're ready to go raise 150K and jump into the game, we are ready to help you and support you and build more tools for you. And I think
We're here for you.
we'll leave it there. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank
Sam.
you.
Bye.